We are live now. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Rindra. So, good morning, everybody. Myself, Sandeep Jain, Joint Director and Head CSR. And so we are running this Invest to Wellness series since last couple of years. And so last year, we already just organized more than the 30 webinars under the series. So Dr. Kedhamija and Dr. Sunil Gupta was also were part of this series. So thanks to all of you to joining us. So again, so very good morning, Dr. Sunil Gupta, Additional Director General, DHS, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Professor Dr. Rajendra Kedhamija, Head of Neurology Department, Lady Harding Medical College and SSK Hospital, New Delhi. Mr. Mr. George Thomas, Executive Director, ESA of Small Finance Bank. Ms. Dhanya Rajeshwaran, Senior Director, Human Resource, Human Technologies. And Dr. Prashant Kulsresht, Deputy Medical Superintendent, PSRI Hospital. And also very well welcome our moderator, Dr. Hema Devakar, CEO, Artist and Medical Director, Devakar's Hospital, Bangalore. So on behalf of the ASSOCHAM, it's an absolute honor and proud privilege to extending very warm welcome to team of ASSOCHAM members, senior guests, and our gathering who have joined us today. So the rapid outbreak of COVID-19, the pandemic presents an alarming health crisis worldwide. So in addition to the human impact, a significant business and commercial impact also being felt globally. So our business fraternity also impacting since last this couple of years, around 1-2 years. And as we know, this virus doesn't know borders. Its impact continues to transcend geographical boundaries. COVID-19 pandemic has hit India and substantially hard like a tsunami and led to an unprecedented political disaster during its second wave. So since this inception of coronavirus infection, the efforts are concentrated on preventing and slowing down transmission. We are deep gratitude to scientists and our medical fraternity for eventually successfully developing the potential COVID-19 vaccine to combat deadly coronavirus. And also we salute to our medical fraternity and the health workers and the health warriors, those who just like continuously working with us since last 1.5 years. We take this opportunity to convey our heartiest best wishes to Government of India to launch biggest COVID-19 vaccination drive in January 2020. As per Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, more than around 37 crore vaccination have been administered already. I am immensely pleased to share that the very large number of the business community in India as the responsible entity, complementing government initiatives, and has been playing an instrumental role in driving COVID-19 vaccination. By facilitating free of cost vaccines or its subsidies rates to employee and their family. And the business entities not just like it are limited to only their employees and their families. They are doing a very good job around the community. Some organizations have also rolled out incentives such as extra day off and gift vouchers to encourage vaccination to their employees. Many notable corporates have covered broader communities and people at large to get more people vaccinated. ASSOCHAM members also doing a very fantastic job in this vaccination drive and supporting to Government of India and the state government also. So today we are here to share the best practices to cover the human task of the vaccination for all. So our few representatives from the corporate and medical fraternity also here. So I will not take much more time. Today we are our session coordinators, Dr. Hema Devakar. So Dr. Hema Devakar, very renowned personality in both national and international healthcare domain. She is the medical director in Devakar's Health Specialist Hospital and senior consultant, obstetrician and gynecologist with over the 3 decades of experience and expertise in women's healthcare. She was past president of FOXI to 2013 and she is Vice Chair for FIGO PN CD Committee 2015 team. Dr. Devakar has won numerous awards, accolades, and awards. So I hand over to Dr. Hema Devakar for continuing this session. Please, Dr. Hema Devakar. Thank you all of joining us.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Namaskar. A very good morning to all our beloved viewers, ladies and gentlemen. We yet again welcome you on our journey from illness to wellness, brought to you by ASSOCHAM. Yes, it has been a long journey, as Sandeep ji and Chandrasekhar ji have trotted along amidst the waves that the COVID pandemic has created in the last couple of months, extending to the years. So when we bring the corporates and the communities together, and if the team wins, it means that everybody wins, because no one is safe until everyone is safe. So with that mantra, we bring you some insightful and thought-provoking deliberations in today's session of We for Victory, which also expands as Vaccination for Victory, because all of us know that is probably the only way forward for us to conquer, if not on a long term, at least temporarily tide over the crisis that we are facing. So can I just ask Paritosh to allow me the slide share, please? So just to set the context of what we have all jointly been going through and what this brilliant panel is going to deliberate in front of you. Yes, we had a very exciting phase when, lo and behold, we were in a great search for vaccination, and it was found double quick with all the rigorous scientific tests that it stood, and we said we are ready to roll this out. That was phase one, where the most vulnerable got the vaccination. But then, with seemingly a flawless implementation and execution, both from the government and the private partners, the CoWIN app registration, the vaccination training for the staff and the nurses, and the rigorous way in which the adverse effects were monitored gave us the confidence, yes, vaccination is here to stay, and this is indeed the way forward. And many people got vaccinated. Then when the rollout was for the masses, 44 plus, 18 plus years, came the constraints of procurement of vaccination. We've had many people wanted to avail of the vaccination, but we didn't have enough vaccines. And all of us know what the state and the central governments went through in the roller coaster. And then came the phase of vaccine hesitancy. It is available, but there are no takers, because by then many groups have raised their voice and concerns about, is it safe? Is it efficacious? Which vaccine should I take? When should I take the second dose? Even if I've taken the vaccine, I'm still having some symptoms. And the post-vaccination phase also seemed to be very traumatic. So not only on the World Health Day, but every day now the entire community is saying, invest in your health for huge returns. This is the language that the corporates speak about investments. And ladies and gentlemen, health is wealth and prevention is better than cure. So we are on our journey, rightfully so, to prevent illness and promote wellness. And the next generation, you just look, even the cap looks like the corona virus. When the generations are taught, they say, A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. No, just wait. C for COVID, or C for corona. P for pandemic, V for vaccination. That may well be in the curriculum of the generation next. That is what the future seems to hold. But where there is a will, there is a way. And together we resolve yet again that we for victory and we for vaccination. With that, we are bringing in the corporates on board today to hear from them what has been their thought process individually and to the organization and the corporate that they belong. And it is a great mix of not only the corporates, but also the medical professionals, the researchers, the heads of institutions, to have a 360-degree perspective of how we can join hands to do our best. Shot in the arm. This is the ad by Amul, Wax below, packs below. This is a way of simple advocacy to touch the minds and heart of people. And today we have a brilliant mix of panelists to deliberate with us. We present to you Dhanya Rajeshwaran, who is the Senior Director of the Human Resource for Lumen Technologies, both in India and the APAC regions. She has more than 2 decades of industry experience and has been leading large-scale transformational change and redefining the employee experience. Most importantly, she has stuck out of her comfort zone, being deeply passionate about community service and volunteers for various NGOs as well. And we will have Dhanya to lead the discussions as the first speaker on today. This will be followed by Mr. George Thomas, who is from the Small Finance Bank, Vitamin M, as we call it, the money part of it, calling itself a small finance bank, but can make a big difference. The Executive Vice President of ESAF, George Thomas, who has 17 years of experience in microbanking and more than 3 decades in agricultural extension, agri-farm management, rural management and training, microfinance and livelihood. All this is, so interwoven and well connected with the issue of COVID pandemic, because on one hand, it's the health that is impacted, on the other hand, the jobs and the livelihoods as well. So it is one of the best bet we have to give us the perspective of what better we can do with different angles approaching the same issue of the COVID pandemic. He has many academic accolades, as you can see here: agricultural sciences, postgraduate in environmental science and ecology, risk management, excellence in microfinance, and so on. We then have Dr. Prashant Kulakshetra speak to us, being the Deputy Medical Superintendent of the Pushpavati Singhania Hospital and Research Center, renowned healthcare business leader, and the Chief Advisor on developing various IT, web, and mobile applications for use in healthcare. Rightly so, ladies and gentlemen, we have all recognized that the healthcare should be married to the technology to get the best of the emergency responses, and the healthcare fintech and other allied points of view will be presented by Dr. Prashant Kulakshetra. We then have Dr. Rajendra Kedhamija, who has so kindly joined us despite many emergencies around him. He's a neurologist from the Lady Hardinge Medical College, which we have just learned is more than a century old. Is the director, professor, and head of the neurology department. And I said, where there's a will, there's a way. It's all in the neurons and our mindset that we are determined to conquer this menace of the COVID pandemic with all angles in place. He has been awarded Commonwealth Staff Academic Fellowship in Neurology in 2000 and the WHO Fellowship in Epidemiology. And the WHO said once is not enough. So he was awarded twice, once in 2004 and yet again in 2010. He's also an advisor for Royal College of Physicians in London and has been invited to present his research and lectures in various international meetings right across the globe. And what a rich resource Dr. Kedhamija is for us. And we have been kindly joined. Dr. Sunil Gupta on the wheels. I heard he is stuck in the midst of a traffic jam, but still thank you, sir, that you have cared to join for such an important cause that we are discussing, how the partnership with the government and the corporates, public-private partnership, as we often speak of, how are we going to walk the talk in making the vaccine program succeed in our country and say vaccination for victory. Dr. Sunil Gupta is from Maulana Azad Medical College. He is postgraduated from there and now holds the prestigious post of additional DGHS at the MOHFW, which is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. He's the director at the NBTC and additional DGHS at the ministry, as I've just said. And most importantly, two major national programs have been supervised by him, one for containment of antimicrobial resistance and the other on the surveillance of influenza. And the Central Research of Institute in Kasauli is administered many activities from this institute, which on a key important issue on production and quality control of vaccines and immunobiologicals, because the delivery of vaccines with the quality maintained is in fact one of the key things that we look for, because do no harm, safety is the first thing that we have to recognize. George, who is the Executive Director of Muthoot Finance, could unfortunately not join us today, but his thoughts are much with us and he has pledged all the support that he will be able to lend us in furthering the initiative of V for Vaccination and V for Victory. So having just placed before you a galaxy of the bright minds who are the willing minds who come one step forward and walk the journey for making things happen and making a difference in this great, complex, challenging countries. And I do believe that the challenges are being turned into opportunities by ASSOCHAM bringing us all together on this great platform. And may I have the proud privilege of presenting to you, ladies and gentlemen, Dhanya Rajeshwaran, the one and only female in this array of the brilliant minds that we have brought together. As I said before, she's a senior director of human resources, and it's all about people, really, that Dhanya will tell us about, of how we can collectively make the victory happen by Lumen Technologies supporting the vaccination program for the country as a corporate. Dhanya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hema. Very, very energetic setting of context. And Mr. Sandeep, thank you very much for having me here, and a warm welcome to my fellow panelists. I'm just delighted and honored to be part of this illustrious group today, talking about something that is supremely important to us as an organization, as a company, as a country, and should I say broader, as people, right? I just love how Dr. Hema has framed this as V for Victory and V for Vaccinations and illness to wellness, right? So I think that's exactly where the journey that we are in. Allow me a couple of moments to talk to you about, what I believe are the key things that corporates, responsible corporates, can play as a role in furthering this agenda for us as a country. Right. Just a brief introduction about the company that I represent. I work for Lumen. Lumen, as we proudly call it, is a platform for amazing things. We are a Fortune 500 company, and probably can boast of an technology architecture that can host the most complex enterprise applications around the world. Colloquially put, pretty much any world event gets hosted. In all probability, gets hosted on the Lumen network around the world. So with that said, let me just dive into what has this whole pandemic taught us, and what is it that corporates can really do, right? Before I go any further, Dr. Hema, are you able to see my screen? Is it visible?
Yes, but just put it in the slide share mode, Dhanya.
Okay, yes. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Is that okay?
Yeah, but in the display setting, the duplicate slide, you'll have to probably you go to the display settings up there, and it'll say slide duplication, and then you just say stop. Yes.
All right.
Yes, the duplicate slideshow. That's the next one. Next one you tap. No. Yes. Okay. Super. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, if anything, COVID has taught us that there is just so much unexpected that can happen in life. Like so much can hit you without you realizing what's coming down the pipe, right? And it took the world by storm. It has devastated families. It has just wreaked havoc on what we would have believed as our day-to-day lives, right? And from there to the wave one and the recovery that many countries, including India, demonstrated, almost gave us some sort of a faith that, hey, you know what, we're capable of handling this. And then wave two struck us. And that's when we realized that, hey, you know what, we need something more permanent. We need this to be addressed in a very systemic, structural way so that there is no third wave, there is no fourth wave, and we are safeguarding ourselves as people from this devastating disease. Right. I recently read this report, this research report, and I thought it framed it really nicely about what is it that corporates can do. And from our experience of Lumen, I think it sort of completely resonates with what is the role we can play. The very first thing is the conviction part of it, the belief that, we have to do something. We cannot just stand and watch it happen to us versus truly believing that we have a role to play. And vaccinations in particular, despite the debate of, was this vaccine effective? Did we have enough time to test it? Despite all of that, I think there is enough evidence to prove that if you're vaccinated, the chances are the impact of the disease on you is far less devastating than what it could be if you weren't vaccinated. I think that's something that researchers have sort of established. So with that being the basis, what can corporates do? I mean, you think about this, right? Employers, probably next to the government, have the biggest influence on what can impact our people. And one of the first things is, how do you actually educate people on the facts? How do you make it easy for people to have conviction? And by that, it doesn't mean that we're expecting corporates to, stand up and say, hey, you know what, go for this vaccine or that vaccine. But it is actually about creating that visibility to the availability of facts that, okay, these are the benefits, these are the side effects, and just making people comfortable with the idea of knowing that, hey, it's okay to take a vaccine, right? And for that, how do you actually get experts? How do you get community leaders to come and speak up about it? How do you highlight role models? Because it's one thing to hear a medical doctor talk about it, but it's another thing to hear somebody from your friends or family telling you, hey, you know what, I took the vaccine and it's absolutely okay, right? So there's a big difference, but you need both. You need the medical doctors to tell you why it is critical, and you need role models to highlight that it is okay for you to do it, right? And from a corporate perspective, vaccines have far-reaching implications, right? I mean, we do know that there are many people who prefer vaccines, and then there are still some who are evaluating what they want to do with the vaccines. But the fact remains that it has an impact on the workplace. It has an impact on the community. So many countries today have started asking for, proof of vaccine while you travel. So what does that mean in terms of policies that impact employees on a day-to-day basis, right? So there is many things that you have to think about to say, okay, what does vaccinations look like? And then you think about the convenience, right? We did, as a country, go through, and Dr. Hema very beautifully highlighted the phases where, we went from, I'm not so sure, to, oh, I want it, but then we didn't have it. And then now we have it, and then we're pushing more and more people to take it. But how do you actually make it convenient? How do you make it more accessible? How do you make it more practical for people to actually go get a vaccine, right? And this is where I think corporates have played a pretty significant role in, just holding camps, making sure that, there is support for vaccination scheduling. If you think about Lumen, for example, right? Not only did we make sure that, we were tying up with the insurance provider for, various COVID-related support, but we also enabled a vaccination policy. And then we ensured, not only did we enable a vaccination policy, but we also made sure that people could actually go get vaccines in camps. And this is no different from what many, many, many corporates are doing, right? And the last part of it is the costlessness. Unfortunately, all of this comes with a cost, right? I mean, if you have to go take a vaccine, you think about the regular employee on a given day, it means they have to take leave. In some cases, it may be, It may be an impact for them from a productivity standpoint, but corporates have a role to enable that structural support. So how do you enable people to go get vaccines without feeling like, oh my God, I'm, stepping away from work? And the recovery post-vaccine. Some people do need a little bit of a recovery time post-vaccines. And how do you as a corporate encourage people to take that time for recovery? And I think that's a big one. The other cost comes from the actual cost of vaccine. Whether we like it or not, we have to pay for the vaccines, right? But what corporates are doing is making sure that we minimize that cost for our employees. So if you think about Lumen, we've actually enabled a vaccination policy that includes the employee, their spouse, and their children for both the doses. And they could actually claim this from wherever they might have taken the vaccine, as long as they have the vaccination proof, right? So what this means is you're creating awareness about the need for vaccine. Then you are creating access to that vaccine. And then you're making it easy for people to pay for that vaccine. And the last is, how do you actually expand the impact to communities, right? Again, when you think about communities, many companies are thinking about, okay, how do we actually use corporate social responsibility to actually drive vaccinations in the broader community? And even the ecosystem, like if you think about Lumen, we didn't stop with thinking about vaccinations just for our employees. We also thought about our extended support staff who may not be directly on our roles, but how do we actually support them in the vaccination process, right? So there's a lot that corporates can do in making sure that we are driving this. And I think it's, if I just have to summarize, it's not just the vaccinations that's going to make it work, right? It's the whole support structure that goes behind the vaccinations. Vaccination is a very crucial piece of how that support structure works. But just standalone vaccinations is not going to solve for it. You need some prevention awareness with your employees. You need to make sure that you're pushing them towards, actively considering the vaccine that they are most comfortable with. You need to make sure that there is, access to reactive support. So what happens if somebody's actually got COVID? How do you support them? And in Lumen, one of the things I'm incredibly proud of is how our employees came together to set up something called a critical care team. So there was a period when, hospitals were overwhelmed. The whole medical infrastructure was overwhelmed. And people needed to make like zillion calls to find a hospital bed, an oxygen cylinder. And I think the critical care team within Lumen sort of just stood up and said, you know what, we'll make those calls. We'll find where we can get those. And I think that's where the community is also rallying around this whole response for how do we actually manage COVID, right? And the last part of it is the recovery. How do you actually help people feel confident that it is possible to get over this crisis? The mental health impact of this crisis has been tremendous. I mean, there's enough and more people living in anxiety. There's enough and more people who are struggling with post-COVID. And how do employers support that, right? Whether it is the employee assistance programs, how do leaders step into support, or how do you actually help showcase stories of people who have lived through this, but have through this and are able to tell you, okay, here's how you actually conquer this, right? So there's just a whole ton that goes behind the vaccinations enablement to victory. And I think corporates play an incredibly significant role in supporting the government in making this happen. Like we cannot just say, okay, you know what, one part of our country, which is the government, is going to make this happen. It needs every part of our country and community to hold hands, citizens included, to be able to step up to this responsibility. And we're at a phase where we're accelerating the vaccination journey as a country, but we also need to be extremely mindful about not putting other people at risk. So even though lockdowns have been lifted across the country, I think it puts a huge onus on us as people to be more responsible about social distancing, taking all the preventive care, not congregating in groups, just making sure that we're keeping our families safe collectively, right? So with that, Dr. Hema, let me turn this back to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about this, and it's my absolute honor to have been part of this group today.
Thank you so much, Dhanya. Dhanya is one person who is representing Lumen. Lumen for us means a keyhole. And it's a laser sharp view through that keyhole. And I'm so proud of the thoughts that you have presented on awareness, accessibility, and affordability. Just two quick questions, Dhanya. When you make every single attempt to convince people in your own organization to take the vaccine and also their families, that's a wonderful thought. But what if one or two employees are stubborn? Because there are all kinds of people. Vaccine hesitancy is real. And if they refuse to take the vaccine, being an HR person, I would like to know how you deal with them.
Well, at this point in time, I think it's like this, right? We are in the not the early stages of vaccine adoption. I'd say we're in the middle stages of vaccine adoption, right? So during this phase, it's almost like change management, Hema. It's about helping people understand that it is okay. So the part I spoke about role models, right? So sometimes and I'll be honest, I've had enough family members who said, I don't want the vaccine. This is not going to work. Right. But then eventually, how do you actually help them see the fact that, hey, you know what, the benefits far outweigh the cons that we sort of imagine it to have. And I think that's where we are. So at this point, or even at any point, I mean, vaccine is a very personal choice. So you won't actually end up forcing somebody to get vaccinated. So I don't think that would ever be the route, any corporate would take. But we would very strongly encourage people to keep themselves safe for sure. So that's definitely the way.
You will go an extra mile to convince them, because once may not be enough, in most instances. And as the time goes by, they recognize the worthiness and value of taking the vaccine. So they go with the flow. Brilliant. And just one more point. When Lumen can do so much of advocacy, how do you, what is your thought process in taking the advocacy initiative beyond what you're already doing, like in a broader sense, to the nooks and corners of our country? What is the thought process for collaborations with various professional organizations or various other cross-sectoral communities to expand the advocacy?
No, definitely. I think it needs the whole ecosystem to come together on this. And if, hand to heart, I do know that, Chandra does approach us on many things, but this topic completely resonated with us as an organization. And honestly, it's one tiny way of, putting the voice out there to say, hey, this is important for the country. And I think that will only keep continuing, Dr. Hema. We'll continue to look for opportunities to advocate on the need for not just our people, but our people as a country to be able to, overcome this pandemic in the best possible way.
Wonderful. Dhanya, I've been very, very impressed with your mature thinking and also consistent and consolidated efforts to do whatever you can. And I truly believe that you believe in doing your bit, and every bit counts. Thank you very much, Dhanya. So if you can stop the slide share, can I move on to our next?
Done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dhanya, again. Yet again, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to invite Mr. George Thomas, the Executive Director of the ESAF Small Finance Bank. And as I had said in the opening remark, that there is a lot more, the thoughts aligned with the action, because just having a vision and a mega idea is not enough. You have to implement things on the ground. And for that, we need very, very valuable inputs from our panelists like Mr. George Thomas. So let's hear from George about what his role as an executive director and what his organization brings to the table when we say, corporates, let's join hands to make we for vaccination a victory. George, please.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, George.
Hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, George, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Hema Divaga, for nice words about our organization as well as good introduction about this great program. First of all, let me appreciate ASSOCHAM for taking a lead in conducting a series of talk, especially on illness to wellness. I really appreciate that was a very good program, especially this role of corporate boosting vaccination drive is another. I also happen to attend a few ASSOCHAM programs in relation to illness, and everything conducted very well. And Sandeep and team, and also Dr. Mr. Rajput, we appreciate from our side all the best to the ASSOCHAM for such programs in future also. Now, I am also much privileged to have an eminent, maybe the presence of doctors who have toiled day and night to put or arrest this great virus in our nation. So let me also appreciate and thank you from our bottom of heart as a frontline warriors. We really, as on behalf of corporates or banking sector, we want to just salute you for the great work you have been doing all 1.5 years. That's not a simple job, but it is a commitment and the first and so let me also appreciate appreciate two directions which issued history of health. One is conducting
Mr. George, your voice is not audible. Please off your camera.
Can you hear me now? Here there is a
yes.
Heavy, there is a heavy rain in Kerala, so I think there are some connectivity issues. Okay, yeah. Let me come to the point now. See, there are two directions which is issued from government of India. Ministry of Health was so helpful. One is about conducting vaccination program at workplace. Second is a joint secretary has written a letter to the chief secretaries to consider bank employees as a priority list. So these two things, we know that this will be considered as one among the other directions from, the government of India as far as the chief secretaries or the persons here concerned. But this was a point of, concern for us. So we have taken it further to issue state level orders to consider bank employees as a priority sector. So by that way, we have tied up with the state level banking communities. We have got operations in 19 states of India and having almost 550 branches and almost 300 customer service centers. So, since we are working in almost all the state, the majority of the state, first of all, we could also liaison with many of the state level banking committees so that we pursued with them and we could also make some state government orders in favor of bank employees so that they may also come in the preference list. And but we know that as my co-panelist also shared about the biggest struggle is to convince these employees. But what happened during this time? Many of our, as far as we are concerned, in our bank we have got around 4,000 employees, from the top MD and CEO to the sales and relationship offices. And almost all our micro banking business we are doing through the banking correspondents. So we have got around 15 banking correspondents. We call it them as a VCs. So, if you consider all the employees together for both VCs as well as bank, it will come around 10,000 people. So this 10,000 people, their health is actually the help of our organization. Their health is actually the real strength of our organization. And one vulnerability during this time is that since we have mainly involved in micro banking activities, we have got around 25 lakhs of customers, 2.5 million customers. So almost every week or fortnightly or monthly, almost 75% of our workforce, that will come around 7,000 people, is on feet on street, you can say. They have to meet the customers to lend or different financial service activities. So there was two risks involved in that. One is our own employees who is going and making effort in meeting these customers. So they are so vulnerable. So their health is very, very important. Second is also customers. When they get connect with these people, unless if they are also not properly educated and vaccinated, that will also be a risk for us, even for the banking operations or even otherwise also. So our immediate target was to convince our bank employees. So what we have done is, as I said, we have got 550 branches scattered all over India in 19 states. So we have got around 50 clusters having 10 to 11 branches. So all the cluster leaders or the cluster managers, you can say area managers, we have empowered them so that they may talk to the respective lead managers of their bank in the respective districts of the particular state. And also, both of them will go and meet the DMOs, district medical officers, so that a vaccination drive may be conducted in that particular district. And all the employees who are coming under that particular village will be encouraged to go there and make a vaccination for our staff. So that somehow, it was not very easy. So what we did, from the center office, we could make a liaison with or association with almost 12 hospitals, including Apollo hospitals. So that clicked very well, and we could, with the association of these hospitals and the help of local self-government and our employees, we could drive a beautiful vaccination campaign program for all month of June. So we started in June 1st. For every employee should be get vaccinated. And we know that, when this is issued, so some of the employees may not be enough to convinced about the vaccination. In initial stage, there were a lot of questions, whether it will function or not, whether it will work with or not, whether there will be any result or output, all kind of those questions. But what we have done, even in our system, out of our 4,000 employees of bank and 6,000 employees of banking correspondents, almost 2,000 of them got affected by the COVID. And those people were the spokespersons for this rest of the community. So in a very subtle manner, they were able to communicate with their co-workers so that, easily they also get convinced. Once you get that disease, what kind of a trauma, what kind of a situations, all kind of things, it is a peer-to-peer communications. So that way, most of them, except very few, most of them got convinced about getting a vaccination. So that way we could conduct a vaccination in almost all through these branches in a district level. So now almost 70% of our employees got vaccinated. Now, second question is that how we will also do through community, because since our bank is a social bank, even we started as a small NGO in 1992, and we have been thrusting a lot on the social transformation of people. We thought we would also do something for the customers or our community. So even from the beginning, our bank has set apart 5% of our profit as a CSR activities. So 5% of the profit is quite a good amount. And this year, the board again, we have proposed to board, and board was kind enough to give, a portion, majority of that CSR fund for COVID-related relief and rehabilitation activities. So through that way, what we have done is that we have concentrated, we are even now in the process of concentrating around 5 lakh people. And we have also helped in setting up FLCC for many areas, especially the rural hospitals where there is no much facilities. So with the help of CSR fund, we were also able to give a good support to rural hospitals so that they may also set up ventilators and oxygen centers and other related activities. So, and the special wards for some of the hospitals also we were able to constitute with the help of the CSR fund. And finally, we also started some vaccination centers with the help of district medical authorities, so that we encourage most of our customers also go and get vaccinated. So that way, it was a twofold approach. One is to get vaccination for our employees with the help of hospitals and the district medical authorities. Second is give awareness and also vaccination program for the customers at a large in areas where we have been especially working. So in that way, I think we could do a commendable job in getting vaccinated through this program. So even now, as I said, it is not finished. The program is still going on. And many areas, we find it very difficult. Some of the northeast and eastern part of India, Kerala, that, it is very easy. People are much concentrated. They have got that awareness about this program. So it is very easy for us to communicate. And even for the head office also, what we have set up a vaccination program in the head office, so that almost 500 of our employees from the head office also got vaccinated with the help of the Apollo Hospital. But some of the areas like Jharkhand, Bihar, and other areas, still that drive is going on. But we hope we will be able to do it in a very successful manner. So this is the story of our experience with Nisar Small Finance Bank. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so very much, Mr. George, because you began with an attitude of gratitude, thanking all the healthcare warriors, or the Corona warriors as we call them. So thank you so much for appreciating our community who have really gone an extra mile to do whatever best they can do, and also your thought process on appreciating the policies which came in for making the banking sector as a priority. So just again, 2 questions to you. When your reach is obviously very wide and very deep, as how I have understood the scale of what your organization can do. So when you encouraged everybody, and you said that there were limitations in only listening with the government for the vaccination, and you had to tie up with multiple hospitals as well, would you still at this point in time have a challenge on just the availability, procurement of have your employees gone there, thinking that they could get the vaccine, but they have turned back? That was the first thing. And as an extension, have you motivated the family also to get moving with the vaccination, and what has been that response?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. One is that, as far as Southern India is concerned, we are able to get connected with the government hospitals, and we are able to do that. But there were availability issue for the vaccination. During that period, there were holidays, we were not able to push it further.
Right.
So, but North India, with the help of the lead managers of SLBC, that is in the respective district, now we are able to make, for example, Raipur, yesterday, the entire Raipur cluster has been vaccinated. We got a message.
Excellent.
Bhopal,
Excellent.
yeah, Bhopal also, it got vaccinated. So we are getting a lot of good messages from those areas. As far as these family members are concerned, we have got we have got a staff welfare trust. Every staff of ISAF
Excellent.
group is members of this staff welfare trust. So we know that, it's very difficult. So we made a drive with this hospital for the family members also.
Excellent.
So now that has been taken up, and this coming Sunday again, 300 of our family members will be get vaccinated. So from the staff welfare trust that has been initiated, and we are supporting in that venture.
Excellent. We also truly appreciate that you're combing areas after areas, clusters after clusters, and making sure that everybody is on the same page. So congratulations for that.
Yes.
One last question about your CSR initiative in the rural parts. See, it is one thing to provide the finance, as in the CSR, but what is your experience with the capacity building and the implementation or execution of the protocol-based care with least of the infrastructure in the rural parts? Has anybody monitored that, evaluated that, studied that, and thought it was worthwhile investing in the rural CSR? So,
Yes, ma'am. I think as far as health is a very big concern for as far as CSR is concerned, because the health of our customers, the customers like us, poor and marginalized women in the rural areas. So
yes.
what we have, even from the beginning, we have, trained Arogya Mitras. This is a concept from the CSR.
Very
Arogya
nice.
Mitras, is the one who can go and check the glucose level, pressure, and pregnant ladies for the nutrition and other aspects. So this is one of the programs of this Arogya Mitra. So in these situations, what we have done is that we again build the capacity of the Arogya Mitra. So they will be the spokesperson for this community, so that they will
Excellent.
function like a Arogya Mitra who will also concentrate this community. Secondly, rural, we have identified a few rural hospitals which has got connected with the rural people, so that their capacity, their infrastructure capacity and other capacities also we have we have already chalked out a plan, so that we will be enhancing their infrastructure capacity, so that they may also give good health services to the nearby areas. So that way CSR has got a very clear idea on the health. Even before the COVID, this Arogya Mitra is one of our programs. So that would now enhanced little more to.
And Arogya Mitra is pan-India, sir?
Yes,
it
it is a pan-India. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So thank you so very much, Mr. George Thomas. It is again renewing our hope that it is just not giving away of the CSR money, but you have thought it through of how we can value the contribution of the CSR to reach a meaningful finish. And I really, really appreciate that the implementation, the capacity building, the advocacy, the execution part of it has also been as robust. And on behalf of ASSOCHAM and all the viewers, we yet again congratulate you and look forward for strong collaborations to reach the communities as well as the people at large across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next we have none other than Dr. Rajendra Kedhamija. Finally, we are shifting our focus to our medical fraternity to give us some inputs of how and what they think about Vaccination for Victory. Dr. Kedhamija heads the neurology department at the Lady Hardinge Medical College and the SSK Hospital at New Delhi, and being right at the center and helm of affairs with the great insight into how to make things happen. Let's hear it from Dr. Rajendra Kedhamija on the way forward for Vaccinations for Victory. So, feel to unmute, sir. Yes, sir. Rajendra ji, we are ready to go. No, you need to unmute, sir.
Okay, now I think I've been unmuted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
good morning to
super.
everyone. on the panel and the audience, and my sincere thanks to Sandeep ji and Chandra ji for inviting me once again to participate and share my experiences in the last 18 months of this humanitarian crisis which we are in. In spite of my own personal emergencies today, I'm happy that I could be part of this program. And it's a very, very important day, an important event for us, particularly who work in medical field and who deal with the COVID patients day in and day out in the ICUs and in the wards. So the vaccination, as we say, is very, very important. And if you just see the importance of vaccination in terms of development of a vaccine, normally it takes 10 to 12 years to prepare, to test, and start vaccinating people for a particular disease, about 10 to 12 years. But for this COVID pandemic, the international collaborations and the scientists across the world have been able to produce lab to jab in 300 days, a vaccine from lab to jab only in 300 days. This is a remarkable effort by the scientists of the world altogether. So we must know the importance, how it was done and how it was created just in less than 12 months or less than 1 year. So this is very, very important. And given the experience of last 18 months now, the inoculation has become actually the need of the hour in India also. And to get vaccinated, is the only way to get out of the pandemic. And the experience from the ongoing second wave, which has resulted in thousands of people losing their lives, it has shown us that the only way to get out of this is vaccination, in addition to the COVID appropriate behavior or the public health measures. Uh, the several we hear in the newspapers and in the social media, several startups and corporates in India have announced the vaccination drives for their employees and their family members. You know, the way forward, contributing to this to the national efforts in combating this pandemic. So this is very, very important, and the vaccination is the only way to avoid repetition of what we have seen, the havoc of the second wave. So it's a crucial thing that we're all together from the different spheres of life, business, the health sector, the community, all these people coming together and talking about vaccination and the need and the importance of vaccination. And not only the one sector or the one part of the community or the professional group, it's all together, Jan Bhagidari. When it all happens, then only we can claim a victory over this pandemic. So the businesses have their own role to play. In fact, they have been asked to unleash full force of the private sector to supercharge the country's COVID-19 recovery. The corporates not only can help the communicating about the safety of the vaccines or the benefit of vaccines, but they can also make it easier for the workers to get vaccinated when it is their turn, and remaining vigilant about the masking, social distancing, and other prevention strategies as the herd immunity builds up. As the business leaders and ambassadors for your diverse networks of employees and customers, you are critical both to the setting the norms of COVID-19 prevention strategies and helping to foster a culture of confidence relating to COVID-19 vaccines. So it's very, very important for corporate sectors to come and pitch in for combating this pandemic. And we have seen this happening not only in today's presentations, but across last few months. Now it's almost 6 months when we started this vaccination drive, which we label as a world's largest vaccination drive because of our population size of 1.4 billion. So this is a massive, massive exercise. It's a mammoth, and we need to participate in full numbers from all spheres of life. And it is important that we do this kind of activities, whether the involvement of the ministries, the government, the doctors, the researchers, the lab workers, and people like politicians, the role models, the celebrities, even to the grassroots level as RWAs. So everybody has a role to play to take this initiative forward and encourage inoculation. So it is very, very important that we all understand the importance of the vaccination and we move forward, taking all stakeholders with us. So that was my ideas about the involvement of corporate sectors. And not only this, we need trusted voices. The trusted voices are needed to change the attitude and encourage the peoples to take vaccination. And who else than CEOs and business leaders can be better the trusted voices? They are the trusted voices to make this happen, and people listen to them and follow them. And that is why the importance of corporate world is crucial in vaccination drive. And it's not the vaccine, it's the vaccination which will help us come out of the pandemic. So that was my the ideas about the corporate world.
Sure.
But let me run through the our journey of COVID-19 pandemic since last 1.5 years. So as you all know, this humanitarian crisis was declared public health of international importance last year in February by the WHO and labeled as a humanitarian crisis, so that countries are alerted and can take preventive measures like the whether it is the restriction of movements or it is the public health advisories for their populations. So that was early last year in February, March, and since then we have come all the way from making 2,600 laboratories to for the testing, doing crores of testing every day, from not having a PPEs and the PPE kits and the other sanitizers. Now we are in a position to help other countries to make this happen and help in combating their country's response to pandemic. So all this we have come a long way. For me personally, it started in 31st of January when I was in Kerala, Trivandrum, in a conference, when the first case came up in Kerala from a medical student who returned from Wuhan, China. And we knew at that time we are going for a deep pandemic crisis, kind of a we have been following in last 15 years. But then it turned out to be even worse than that. Once in centuries, this pandemic we have gone through. So we started building up our own infrastructure in the government sector, in the local level in our hospitals, making different areas for whether it was the red zone for the COVID positive patients or the orange zones for the suspected patients or the green zones for non-COVID patients. They also took a heavy toll of what we call them elephant in the room. When we see that a lot of people are there with non-COVID complications or non-COVID diseases, but they are not able to access the healthcare because of restriction of movements or anxiety or fear of getting infections. So all these things were happening during the first 6 months, and that was very, very important. So we started writing in the newspapers, national newspapers. So I personally wrote almost 12 opinion piece articles in Hindustan Times and the other national newspapers, educating people and guiding the policymakers. What can be done? How can we redefine our vaccination policy? How can we have a graded dynamic unlockdown period when the lockdowns were being eased off? So all these things were happening, and then we had this lull period of January, February, when the infections were low, the vaccines were coming up, and people lowered their guard, and we ended up having the second wave. So 16th of January, when we had this inauguration of the vaccination drive, I wrote actually in the Hindustan Times that it's a shot in the arm, which now Amul is also advocating. That's a wonderful, catchy line. It was a shot in the arm because this was the only way, in addition to the COVID appropriate behavior, to get out of this pandemic. But we have seen a lot of issues regarding vaccine hesitancy, which I want to touch upon, and that's very close to my heart. The vaccine hesitancy, as WHO defines, is delay or refusing in accepting the vaccine in spite of when it is available, affordable, and accessible. And that's not only in COVID-19, it has been happening in last decades in other diseases like polio and other pandemics and outbreaks. So obviously, we had to address this great issue of people not accepting in spite of vaccines being available. So the role of all these leaders, whether it is business leaders or political leaders or celebrities, has a very, very important role. Whether even at the grassroots levels of a ASHA worker or a panchayat leader, convincing people that vaccine is safe, and we have taken it. As a doctor, we have taken it right on the first day, and we always come on the TV and tell people that we have taken the vaccine. I'm sitting here perfectly all right. Yesterday also I had a second dose. So all these things, it is very, very important to address that vaccine hesitancy and take this moment from vaccine hesitancy to vaccine advocacy. So we all should become vaccine advocates and allay all the anxieties, all the fears of vaccine related concerns. So we as a doctors are trying to convince people it's not only our duty to cure the disease, but also to educate the people. to make a health education compulsory in all consultation, that we can tell them that we have taken more than lakhs of doctors themselves have taken. If the doctors have taken the vaccine, you can very well imagine that we are convinced and it is a safe and efficacious, and it's for your benefit, for your own family's benefit, your own loved one benefit, and for your society's benefit. So we all should join hand together to take this moment forward. We have still a long way to go, given our population, given our percentage of vaccinated people as of now. So obviously, there is a long way ahead, and we all have to work together to make this happen. Thank you once again for having me and sharing my views.
Thank you so much, Rajendra ji, especially because we know that you are really stuck in an emergency today, but still one voice, one mission is what you have said. And you have proven your solidarity to ASSOCHAM and all our viewers that yes, despite and in spite of everything, you're here with us. So a very special thanks on our behalf to you. One question, sir, that how do you foresee our preparation for the third wave, given that it is such a large country, all the advocacy and awareness, all the accessibility and procurement of vaccines, all the affordability and corporates joining hands, still there will be a time period that we will take to reach everybody in the country. Given that, do you think the third wave will override and again cause a chaotic situation, and how we as medical professionals are prepared for it?
So any pandemic, whether it is COVID-19 pandemic or any viral pandemic, depends upon three factors. One is the change in the behavior of the virus. If it mutates or it changes its way in terms of infectivity or severity. The second is the change in the behavior of people. And third is the policies and the role of the leaders, whether it is corporate leaders or government researchers, organizations like that. So all three factors, when interplay, that defines the direction or trajectory of the pandemic. So if the people behavior is conducive to the prevention of pandemic with adherence to the COVID-19 protocols, safety protocols, if we all follow those four principles which I have been advocating for last 1.5 years, the hand sanitization, the masking and distancing, and do not go outside unless it is very, very essential. Do not be part of the crowd. So if these four principles are, if we adhere to all of them, as a community participation, as a Jan Bhagidari, we will play a major role in preventing the third wave. Second is the change in behavior of the virus. If the virus keeps on changing its behavior in terms of mutants, and that also depends on the number of people who are infected. If there is no people for the virus to infect, then obviously the chances of mutations are also very less. So if we decrease the number of susceptible individuals to the virus in terms of having more and more people immunized, protected or vaccinated. If we vaccinate, if we protect people, there is no one or there is very few people for the virus to infect or to spread the infection or to continue the chain of the infection. So that we have to break that chain of transmission, and that can only happen with the vaccination. So all the three things, behavior change for the virus, behavior change for the people, and the vaccination, if all three come together, I am sure that we can get away with the third wave. Even if it happens, it will be very, very mild, not as compared to the second wave. So we have to make sure that all the three things we are able to control. I know it's very difficult for humans to change their behavior. It's one of the most difficult aspect of human behavior. Whether you want to shift your house, you will think 10 times. My maid is there, my workplace is there, my market is there, my transportation is there. So what will happen to the new house? But eventually, when you move to a new house, everything falls in place in next few months. So obviously, we all resist as a human. We resist the change in our lives. So that is very, very important. And I'm confident with the efforts of all the stakeholders, including the public health advisories, the government, the people, the voluntary organization, the corporates. This is making definitely a positive change, and people are adhering. But somehow, when we let our guards down, like we have seen in last few days, what we call revenge tourism. So this thing has to be discouraged. We have to avoid super spreader events, and then only we can make sure that we are over the virus. We are not, our virus is not changing us. We are changing the virus, and we have an upper hand on the virus, and that's the way to go forward to prevent a third wave and prevent mortality.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Dr. Dhamija, for this cluster of very, very important messages that you have given our audience today. And you've also spelled out that be the change you want to see, and you have to change your behavior for the good of the humanity, because we again go back to our mantra of until everyone is safe, no one is safe. So
Absolutely.
we keep to that focused goal and move on to our next panelist, Dr. Prashant Kulakshetra, who is the Deputy Medical Superintendent of the PSRI Hospital, again from the city of New Delhi, which has showcased to the rest of the country many challenges which have been turned into opportunities to do the best. So may we have Dr. Prashant Kulakshetra speak to us, please. Sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. So am I audible? So am I audible? Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
So first of all, thanks to ASSOCHAM to give this wonderful opportunity to be part of this group. And till now, I have learned so much, and it had been an overwhelming experience of listening to what people had been doing and contributing. And I visit PSRI Hospital, which is in South Delhi, and we are promoted by JK Group of Industries. So we are a non-profit organization. We are pioneers in organ transplantations for last 22 years. And our core USP is in renal sciences and gastrointestinal sciences. So of late, everyone experienced what COVID is, and we also had gone through these 18 months of experiencing the COVID infection, and then after this COVID infection, now we have entered a phase where we are trying to push to vaccination. And as rightly put by Dr. Dhamija said that there is role for everyone and from all spheres of life. And how India as a country has shown that if you really remain focused, you can always do capacity enhancements. And we have now
Hello, good morning.
We are
Good afternoon.
Vaccines, giving it to
In
the
the middle of
world,
something?
giving it to the world, and things of that nature.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
wonderfully put by Mr. George, the community participation, the last mile and grassroots efforts that can come from those angles wherein we can take down the efforts to the last possible person deep down in the rural areas of our country, as geographically we are very diversified. So without going into the topics very well addressed by my earlier speakers, so I would put my experience and experience as an organization. So like if I can recall the wave one, wherein the virus had low potency and the volumes of affected persons were also not very high. So the response of healthcare industry at that time, I remember, and if I can put it little appropriately, would be that we were little inactive, and we were in confused state of mind that what we have to do and what should not be done and all those things. Then the wave two struck, and we all were taken by surprise. We were shocked, and we found all ourselves unprepared, and all that we did were more of a reactive approach to something which is there on our heads and we need to resolve. And undoubtedly, our healthcare workers, frontline workers, they have been 24/7 working to provide the required care to each and every person or family which was affected. And then after the wave two and during this period while we were starting our vaccination, so last 6 months, everyone had got into a phase of being a little more cautious and trying an approach that old age saying of prevention is better than cure. So now focus is more and more on vaccination, more and more on mobilizing people, motivating them, connecting them, and involving them in getting vaccinated. not only themselves, but also their families, dependents, and their fellow community people. So here I would like to share our very, very small little things that we did to ensure that we were progressive and we were taking the message of getting vaccinated into the communities in a more structured way, and uh, whatever little best that we can do without taxing too much on resources. So the first, when we were talking about the vaccinations of healthcare workers, so we ensure that as an organization, one is that we ensure that our healthcare workers in our home at our hospital get vaccinated. So we achieved the target of 94% of them getting vaccinated in the first week itself. And then we took this to associations like IMA, DMA, and other professional associations like ASI, FOXC, and all these associations in South Delhi. And it was so nice to find that we were 900 of total healthcare workers inside, but we attracted about 4,500 of healthcare workers from South Delhi to come and get vaccinated at the time. So it was 5,500 people that we brought in here. And our intent was that if they would accept the vaccine, they can play a major role, because doctor community healthcare workers, if they can be the ambassadors to take this message out in community, it would work. That was our intent, and it really paid off. And to keep them motivated, what we did simultaneously was we engaged them in various academic activity of CMEs and seminars on vaccine efficacies and safety. And we involved Dr. Kedhamija, who by chance happens to be with us. He's a pioneer in chest and respiratory medicine science from already Institute of Medical Science. And it really paid off well. And then we also started a vaccine helpline, and we were addressing all the FAQs of vaccine, whether it was Covishield, Covaxin, even Sputnik was not here at that time, but these two were majorly covered by FAQs. And now, since Sputnik has also been introduced, we are also addressing various FAQs on Sputnik. Then one small little thing we did was that we took out the entire database of the patients we had registered with us, and we started having a proactive calling once the vaccine got open for public. So we started doing a proactive calling from our console, and we integrated the technology into running a WhatsApp broadcast and FB campaigns. And I would share that we have managed to reach about 500,000 people in 10-kilometer periphery of our hospital. Very, very focused campaigns that we had done, and also integrated that with the rich email campaigns of nature, which were more informative and creating awareness and enabling them, giving the links to book their slots with the COVID app, which is a wonderful piece of tech that our government has given us. And initially it had some hiccups, but now it seems to be running so very well that it can be managed by people who are not that tech savvy. And as was rightly put by Dr. Hema in beginning of this session, that the healthcare workers were very well guided by government in managing the process flow of vaccination. Also learned quickly on managing and this process flow and giving experience to people of very smooth vaccine session, and also managing the AEFIs, also notifying them to authorities and learning quickly to enable better response to this. So to add on to that experience, what little thing that we did was that we kept on identifying the beneficiaries from the local populations, and we started making them our vaccine ambassadors. And we asked them to take our message and even our teams to their residential areas, where held various motivation sessions to ask people to come and get the vaccines, and to educate them that vaccines were very safe and there were no side effects, and sharing our data with them. which really helped and kept on mobilizing people from local areas to our center. Since we started vaccination, I think we, on an average at one side, had been doing more than 300 vaccines a day. And it was really nice to be part of this largest vaccination drive. And as was rightly put by Dhanya in beginning of the session, the second thing that where the corporates had been playing a major role. So we also approved once this workplace vaccination authorization started. So we had approached all our corporates which were empaneled with us, so whether we can take up a workplace license to come to their site and get vaccinated. And the response was pretty good. And we had done such vaccination campaigns with corporates, and largest being the Godrej real estate, where we told more than 5,000 people in 3 days' time, getting the vaccine. And really, the corporate this time has come up very nicely. If I can remember the stats correctly, I saw a report somewhere wherein Amazon India has held about 10 lakh people, including their small medium business partners, network partners, the truck drivers, and the logistic partners to get vaccinated, not only their employees. So that's a good gesture from corporate world. And as rightly put by Dhanya, that if you talk about conviction, convenience, or costlessness, so they have contributed at all the three categories, and largely the costlessness, because largely the people who were working in such sectors like Amazon India, or I remember, this Zomato, Flipkart, even, like they have supported people who are actually working with them at a minimum wages or something like that. So for them, the cost of vaccine was much for them, and these companies, they have provided that to them as a gesture of different, seems so nice. And also in convenience, and I believe that the study was conducted in India, but I saw this study by McKinsey, which was done in the US, and there was a survey report wherein they said that the conviction alone has contributed in a receptivity towards vaccine going up by 45 to 50%.
Right.
So that small bit of activity can bring large change. And this, I think, we all have done and have been doing this in whatever small ways we are contributing to this. And India should reach the goal of getting more than required numbers of people getting vaccinated. And I wish and pray to Lord Krishna that we do not face the wave 3 and let it not ride on us. And we all are there to shoulder each other. We shall come before us. So that brings my small to an end. Thank you, everyone, for giving me this chance.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Prashant Kulakshetra. We ended with a prayer to Lord Krishna, which is in fact really crucial at this point in time. In the interest of time, I would quickly switch over to Dr. Sunil Gupta ji because he needs to leave in a couple of minutes. Therefore, may I invite Dr. Sunil Gupta, Additional Director General and the Directorate of General Health Services, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Thank you, sir. For even if you spend a few minutes, we are obliged.
Thank you, Hema. So finally, my turn has come. I'm sorry I have to rush for another meeting. But anyway, so I have been asked to speak on role of corporate in boosting vaccination drive. And unfortunately, I don't belong to the corporate sector, unlike most of you who are representing corporate sector in some capacity or the other. But yes, I did have a lot of role to play in vaccine production. As for the vaccine production in non-corporate sector is concerned, I had spent nearly a decade in a place called Central Research Institute, Kasauli, located in a small town in Himachal. And that used to be the leader in vaccine production about nearly about 3-4 decades back. And I happened to have joined that institute at that point of time when it was a world leader. But then, and there was another institute called Pasteur Institute, Kannur, a similar institute. Both these institutes were opened in the British era when there was no even concept of vaccine in the country, long time back. So they have a history of more than 100 years. Then there was another lab called BCG Vaccine Indy in Chennai, which is still making BCG vaccine for our immunization program. And then came a lot of autonomous institutes like Human Biologicals, BIPCOL, Hafkins, and HLL recently. But let me tell you, the way the corporate sector has progressed in the last 3 decades, it's unmatched. And it has really left behind the first two sectors due to a number of reasons. This is not the right forum to discuss why it has happened. But now I remember in the early 70s, there used to be a couple of more than 2 or 3 institutes in the corporate sector involved in vaccine production. Now we have more than a dozen institutes in the country. You have Serum Institute, Biological Even, Shanta Biotech, Cadila, so many. And gradually they are mushrooming. And in fact, one of the institutes, I'm very proud to say, being an Indian, they are the world leader. One of the institutes is #1, ranking #1 in terms of volume and the range of products. That's Serum Institute. That's great for our country. And I've seen how Serum Institute has developed. The owner, Mr. Poonawalla, was a horse breeder. He was not a scientist. And being a non-scientist, how he dwelled into this area of vaccine production and now come up to the #1. And they are also doing a great job for vaccine production in COVID. So that's kudos to the whole corporate sector as far as vaccine production is concerned. Now they have the state-of-art facility. I have visited many of the corporate sector vaccine production institute, and their quality of vaccine production, the type of instrumentation which is there, it's unmatchable. And they are fulfilling the basic requirement of most of the, authorities which control the vaccine production, whether it is DCGI, US FDA, WHO, World Bank, MRHA, European guidelines, Japanese guidelines, and Australian guidelines. And the kind of equipment they have, and many of the institutes have even installed the robotic arms for this thing. And now coming to the COVID vaccine production, you all know there are 2 primary institutes. One is Serum Institute, coming out with the Covishield, and another is Bharat Biotech. Bharat Biotech was another institute which has developed in the last 20 years from a small beginning. And now the way they have progressed, and they are, in fact, Serum is exporting to more than 150 countries in the world. Now, what is the flip side? The flip side is it has adversely affected our government sector. The so-called poaching. Most of the people, the talented people in the government sector have been taken. Of course, they are recruiting in different modes also. But some of the scientists which are involved in vaccine production in these government institutes are now working for these corporates. Anyway, that is one part of it. But my request to the corporate sector is they are doing an excellent job and they must keep it up. And being an Indian, I would like to tell them kindly, they are exporting a huge quantity to our neighboring countries. Even some of the Western countries are getting vaccine from India. They should give priority to our country. Already 40 crore doses have been given to Indian population, but still a lot needs to be done. So they should now give priority to the Indian population and try to make it cost effective. That's one thing about the vaccine production. Next is the role of corporate in vaccination drives. So we have a big range of corporates. We have pharma industry, we have vaccine industry, we have automobile industry, we have hospitals in the corporate sector. I think they're all doing a good job. Whatever I've come to know, most of the corporates are providing free vaccine to their employees. In fact, the members of the families of the employee, and they're also, as one of the speakers was telling, what kind of facilities should be provided to the employees working in various corporate sectors. So they have come out with very good scheme, like giving holiday on the day of vaccination. Even if somebody is not well following vaccination, they are again being permitted leave without deduction in the salary. Then they are also, then in 2021, there was a very landmark judgment, or you should call a notification from Ministry of Corporate Affairs in January 21, where this COVID vaccination drive was included as one of the areas of corporate social responsibility. So that probably gave a big boost to the companies coming forward for this vaccination drive. That included, as I just said, giving free vaccination in camp mode to their own employees, their families. Then they also went beyond that. They went into the promotional drive. You know, there were a lot of hesitancy in vaccine. We call it vaccine hesitancy. So many of the corporates did come out with very good IC policies. They spent a lot of money in the IC activities to remove that element of hesitancy. So again, I think they are all doing an excellent job. In many states have found when the state is not having adequate vaccine, the corporates are coming out with some quantity of vaccine. I don't know how they manage. Maybe they are ready to purchase it at a higher price, but the state government is sometimes lax because they have to follow the typical government GFR procedure. So that's great. I think they are doing a great job. So my plea to them is kindly keep it up, because lot more population needs to be vaccinated. Still, we are far away from achieving 80% target, and kindly go beyond providing vaccination to your employees, their kids, go to the general population as possible. Thank you very much.
Dr.
I'm sorry, I have to
Sunil,
leave
sir,
for it.
yeah, that's it is very obvious and evident that you are so busy wearing so many hats, because all around you there seems to be a lot of activity happening. So thank you very much for joining us. So just one thing I want your input on. You must be dealing with many task forces and many hats to wear and many things to handle. Do you think you have appreciated the corporate sector so much? Do you think a strong, focused, collaborative corridor as a task force between corporates in public-private partnership should exist, and is it already existing?
Yes, I think that will be a good step. That will be a good initiative. That will be, yes. We cannot deny the role of corporate. Absolutely. See, vaccine production, most of the vaccine production now is through corporate.
Yes.
So we have to acknowledge that. We cannot run away from that harsh reality.
Yeah. Right. But thank you once again on behalf of ASSOCHAM and all other panelists also. Namaste, sir. Thank you so very much for being with us. So as we come to the close of V for Vaccinations and V for Victory, I would like to place on records some key takeaways. The last of our speakers before Dr. Sunil Gupta, Prashant Kulakshetra, said there should be, it's a good idea to create vaccination ambassadors, because each one teach one should be the mantra. So each one of the viewers who are seeing us today, make sure that you are vaccinated first and foremost, and make sure that you tell at least 3 people around you, hey, have you got your vaccinations done? And make sure that at least one of them gets the vaccine. This is the way the ripple effect will move on. And when they said that, major institutions or hospitals or even the government, we don't have anything directly to do with the corporates, but look at how his own institute, PSRI hospital in New Delhi, they said, we sought the empanelment of multiple corporates to make sure that we go out there and in their workplace, we vaccinate them. So this kind of cross collaborations, reaching the unreached, lab to jab, corporate to community, that seems to be the resonating voices of all our panelists. But the intent, ladies and gentlemen, is very clear to us, that each one is looking towards the same goal of victory, and we truly believe that together we can. So let's all say one last time in a chorus, vaccination for victory, and let's make it happen and see to it that there is no third, fourth, fifth, or no more waves, but we make waves in the history of this great country, that we have stood together, worked with a single-minded focus and agenda, and made things happen like nobody else in the world. So with that, I offer my own thanks to all the viewers and my very beloved, brilliant panelists for the day, and of course to Sandeep ji, Chandrasekhar ji, Anil Rajput ji, all of them who have so kindly brought us together on this brilliant platform, which makes us think more, and compels us to walk the talk. Namaskar.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste. Bye-bye.